a little bit about how you came to want to get involved in natural health and healing? So you can give us a little bit of your background.
Sure. Well, my background is I was in the ministry, and I was looking at the ministry, and I was from a pulpit. I was preaching to people and telling them that God, their I am, is a healer. But sometimes there was a disconnect. They're going around trying to figure out what they need to do. They're praying, but not getting the type of results. And so I began to look at the scriptures and looking at it, and I began to understand that the best way to understand God is to look at nature. And if we understand nature, then we see that in nature everything heals itself after itself. And so that's what made me really begin to question, how can we begin to understand both the natural laws of health into our own experience, our own ability to...
Wonderful. So my friend Corey Red is here with me today on Oneness Wellness Lifestyle Show, so I can introduce him to you. Corey, welcome to the show. I have a few questions for you. And the first one that comes to my mind is, how is it that you got interested in natural healing? And so give us a little bit of your background.
Sure. Well, I was in a traditional ministry for a long time, and I saw people were dealing with sickness, and the only thing I had to offer in that particular time was to pray. And when I prayed for them, I still wasn't seeing results. And I started looking at nature, and that's the best way to understand who God is to look at the universal laws that govern nature. And I realized that how can we understand more about health and realizing what we intake is what our body's going to recreate. And so that's why I really started to question if we're supposed to be healthy, then we got to really understand what we intake is what we're going to recreate. And so that's what really made me figure out to go in depth and really understand what the governed nature. How did nature always recreate itself after its own kind? And if we are a piece of nature, if we can recreate, how do we create ourselves on an individual basis? And what can we put in? What substance can we put in our body to make us a whole, healthier individual?
That is so in alignment with oneness. You know, oneness lifestyles is really about this vertical relationship that we have with the Creator, and how is it that we define ourselves in terms of health and healing and our spiritual self, and making that connection so that we can have wholeness
Exactly.
and health. And we call that oneness here. That's what Oneness Wellness Lifestyles is about. So, you know, the ministry is so interesting because I started in the ministry as well, bathing feet and helping people to want to overcome.
Sure.
You know, that's what it's about, the deliverance, you know. And so, but getting them to want to eat right, because you know, in the church, after church, it's fried chicken, right? It's fried chicken and mac and cheese, right, and all those things. And so I found that the challenge is moving people from where they say they want to be, okay, what they say they want to have happen, to actually having that as a reality in their life. So what have you found in terms of moving toward natural health? Have you been able to kind of bridge that gap at all?
Well, how I think we can bridge the gap is understanding that if we're going to use the Bible or the ministry as a point of reference, it says we need to be living epistles read among men.
Go ahead.
First
That's
thing
right.
is that I have to exemplify that. Second thing is most people are selfish in nature. And what I mean by that is each person has an individual purpose. And in understanding that purpose, even though it might be spiritual in intent, we still need to have the mechanics or our physical body to be able to get us there. And so if you want, everybody has the ability or a muscular skeletal system to run a marathon, but not everybody wants to put in the discipline to be able to strengthen those muscles on a daily basis so they can be able to do that. So I believe the way we bridge the gap is that we make it selfish for each individual. We figure out what their picture is, what they want to accomplish. And realizing once they understand that, now what do we have to do step by step to get there? So if you wanted to run a marathon, what do we need to do to get to that point? Yes. Even though we might not necessarily have our BMI might not resonate with the marathon runner, but if we can begin to understand that this is what my shality is, how do we can deduce that back to be able to become that marathon runner?
Yes.
And so that's what I think it really comes down to, is the selfish intent of each individual, because each person has their own purpose and their own desire. What's in it for you?
What's in it for me?
Exactly.
Yes.
So now once we understand what's in it for you, what can we do so you can make that picture of reality and manifest into your existence?
This is so fabulous in that Oneness Wellness Lifestyles, you know, we offer you a 90-day program. So we give you that plan, okay? We give you that plan. So for the next 90 days, we say, half your body weight in ounces of water, 2 leafy green salads every day, and then because you did come in and you gave us that picture, that goal, right? So we can see what it is to get you from where you say you want to be to you know, where you are now, where you say you want to be, and this is the plan that helps you get there. So in terms of running the marathon, okay, the marathon in this sense is just beginning.
Exactly.
It's just beginning. So one of the things that was interesting to me when we talked was that when you said you were going to school and, you know, becoming certified, and I'm like so excited about that because like, okay, well, you got to come over here and be with us at Oneness.
Right.
And so from ministry to the accreditation, what was the mindset?
Well, once again, I looked at the scriptures and I looked at nature. Well, if everything is spiritual, and everything, as you said, is about thought, if we look at the parables that Jesus put together, he always dealt with the natural thing first before he dealt with the spiritual thing. And so going back to the principle that everybody's selfish, how do we deal with the natural thing? How do we have the exterior that people desire, but not realizing, not to major in that, but to get to the inside what they really want? And so now we can truly implant what the spiritual thing is, because I believe everybody has a latent potential. And in that latent potential, they want to create something fresh and new, but sometimes we get beaten down by life to hand. We believe the cards that we've been dealt is what it really is. And that's not the case. Just because it has been doesn't mean it always has to be.
That's right.
And so once we can understand that, I believe that once the bridge was that people have to understand what's in it for me right now. Why should I begin to think differently? Why should I envision how I want my life to be? But they have to begin to understand that it is a selfish nature. Once they understand it's selfish, that's the gap. Because if we can begin to see something tangible in our physical structure, then all of a sudden now we have the ability to believe that we can do something greater. And that's what the religious started. That's what really made me make that decision, because it's kind of hard to quantify a spiritual premise or spiritual thought process. But it's very easy to say, hey, if you desire something to look a certain way, these are certain things we can do with wholeness and eating properly and nutrition, that you can begin to see some very quantifiable or measurable goals immediately.
You can. It's wonderful to me. You can't wait to continue to work with you. I know that we've been in need of a male voice for a little while, and so we're happy to have you. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure. I look forward to us doing some wonderful things.
Wonderful. Thank you.